Maxx Crosby really seems intrigued about playing in the Bay again. What's up? Good afternoon. Welcome to Cohn and Krueger. That's Larry Krueger. I'm Grant Cohn. We got a lot of rumors and speculation. It's February. It's that time of the year. Free agency will be in a couple of weeks, and then we'll have new players to talk about. But until then, we got to talk about players on other teams writing rap songs that vaguely reference the 49ers. Maybe Maxx Crosby, known rapper, just came out with a new song. And in the song, he let us know that he just bought a house in the Bay. He did play out here. The Bay's a great place. Seems like he's trolling the Raiders, maybe Tom Brady specifically. How likely do you think it is? I know you don't think they should, and there's a bunch of reasons why they shouldn't. But how likely is it, in your opinion, you think the Niners will make a real run for Maxx Crosby?
Well, I definitely think they're going to make an offer. He makes sense. I mean, he makes sense for them on a lot of fronts. They need somebody opposite Bosa. It sounds like, and it wouldn't surprise me if Max yearned to be here, because he's thinking of when he was happier, he was living here, and he could go back and live here and play on a winning team. And so I could see where he'd want to be here. It's all about the price tag. I think it's more likely that the Niners will make a run at him than it is likely that Mark Davis would ever consummate a trade that would send him here. Unless it's super one-sided. And I think the 49ers, I heard Matt Barrows was asked about this in the last week, and he was like, yeah, I think the Niners, what they want to pay is like a second-round pick. Well, I agree. I think that's totally what they want to pay, and I just don't think the Raiders are at that point that they're willing to give up somebody they love so much for just that kind of a sum. And also, I don't know if it's realistic to think that he would go for such a low price, considering what he actually brings to the table, and he's in his prime.
Yeah, I would think it would be the Micah Parsons trade, just for starters. How old is Maxx Crosby? He 29. Is 28 years old.
28.
Yeah, he's going to be good for a while. If the Niners could get Maxx Crosby, I'd be all for it. I thought they should have traded for him at the trade deadline, and I think the issue really is, would the Raiders do it, and could the Niners make the best offer? I'm not sure they could make the best offer, and I'm not sure the Raiders would do it. Although I don't know if it's Mark Davis really making the decisions anymore, if it's Clint Kubiak or if it's Tom Brady. Who do you think has more juice right now? Clint Kubiak or Tom Brady in that organization?
Probably Clint Kubiak.
I would agree.
I would say Clint Kubiak, just because, it's his show. It's his show. It's the head coach's show. The head coach in all football organizations is the central figure, at least unless you have some kind of weird dysfunction, or when your owner is your central figure or your GM, I don't think it's the same thing. I think it's got to be you speak with one voice, and that voice has got to be the head coach.
Well, if the Niners can get Maxx Crosby, would that make them Super Bowl favorites?
Well, here's the thing about this. It's like, on one hand, I'm like, you know what? This isn't the answer, because it seems kind of like a shortcut. And I don't think the 49ers, who took a shortcut with Trey Lance, didn't work, took a shortcut with Javon Hargrave, didn't work. They love the shortcut idea because they can run it back with an older cast without doing real building. But the real deal is you got to do real building. But the one thing, just watching that rise of the Niners and watching it start to finish, and it was a good exercise, even for somebody like me who lived through it. The one thing that took the Niners, Grant, from, man, they're kind of intriguing, to they are champions, was the 81 infusion of fearsome defenders. Because in 80, they had Walsh, and they had Montana, and they had Dwight Clark, and they had Freddie Solomon. What they didn't have was Ronnie Williamson, Eric Wright, Jack Reynolds, or Fred Dean. And that's almost half your defense that they added in 81, all fearsome defenders, and they went on and won the Super Bowl. So if you ask me where the Niners are now, I would say they got the quarterback probably. They probably got the head coach, but they got to add fearsome defenders. And Maxx Crosby is a fearsome defender. So my only question is, what can you put around him after you spend whatever it's going to take on the cap and in draft picks to get him? That would be my only concern, but he's a fearsome defender, and they need that. So, might be a good move.
I mean, it seems like to win a Super Bowl now, you have to have an all-time great defense. I mean, the last 3 Super Bowl champions have had incredible defenses, and the Niners are at least one superstar player away. But if you had Maxx Crosby and Nick Bosa healthy, and Fred Warner and Lenore, maybe one more free agent, a safety or a linebacker, and then you draft well, maybe you trade Renardo Green and bring in another cornerback. Now you could talk about that being a great defense. With that quarterback, maybe they could win.
I mean, I think the one thing, if you said, what's Raheem Morris bringing to the table on that side of the ball, I think you're going to see more 5-man fronts. And the Niners probably have 3 spots covered in the 5-man front. So they got to have, if they want to run these 5-man fronts as the lead dog in their defense and play a lot of cover, 3, cover 4, and zone behind it, then you better have better front 7 guys. You better have better athletes on that second level. You better have better, faster rushers off the edge. And they don't have their 5-man line right now. They could barely put together one, and they would have no backups. They need an infusion of about 4 different players in their front 7 if they're going to be competitive.
I'm glad that you brought up the rise of the Niners. Eddie, he was a main character in the show. He's interviewed in the show. Doesn't it seem like this is the kind of move? I don't know if he would necessarily go after Maxx Crosby, but doesn't it feel like 10 years into a tenure, coming close, winning 13 games last year, including the playoffs, he'd be itching to make a big move this offseason to get the 49ers back in. Why would he want to be second place to the Seahawks again next year? I don't think he could bear it.
And people will bring up this all the time. They'll say, well, Eddie did it in this non-salary cap era, and that's not reality, and this is the salary cap era. Okay, that's fair to some degree. Not really fair, because Eddie did actually win a Super Bowl in the salary cap era, but people don't give him that one. I guess that one doesn't count, but whatever. But the point is that Eddie would try to get back with what the Niners just did, which was to win 12 games in a year where they had $103 million of dead cap, and they spent very little in free agency and almost nothing in the undrafted market. They basically looked at last year as a transition. They weren't going to say it publicly because that's bad business to do so, but they looked at it as a transition. Kittle even voiced it at the end of the year. Heck, I hate to say it, but Dieter was right. He said it's all about 26, and it was all about 26, except that you just can't say it. So if what would Eddie D do this year? He would spend some money, sign some free agents, probably bring in more coaches than the Niners would bring in. He would probably go for Schwartz right now. He'd probably just, because there's no cap on that. He'd spend a lot of money there, but he would basically rattle the cage of Lynch and Shanahan. And he may even just move on. He may demand that Lynch be out. I mean, Eddie was a bottom line guy. They've missed a lot in the draft. They've hit, and we all like Lynch, but Eddie would not sit there and just, well, you know what, we're going to be good being a second fiddle to Seattle and the Rams, and the Niners right now clearly are.
Yeah, it just feels like while 2025 was supposed to be a reset year and a year to get a lot younger, they did bring in young players who might be good, but it still seems like all their best players are older players, with the exception of Brock Purdy. And so if that's still the core of your team, Warner, Bosa, Kittle, McCaffrey, who's still going to be here, then why not bring in someone who's a little bit older? It doesn't have to be Maxx Crosby, but they don't necessarily have to only. I mean, again, I just don't think Eddie would say, you know what, let's just build through the draft. It's not what he would do. He'd be aggressive.
Yeah. He'd be aggressive. I mean, I just don't want them to think that a shortcut's going to work, because for every team that like the Rams, who the Rams were missing in the draft, right? So Les Snead said, we're going to buy a bunch of guys. And they bought a bunch of guys, and they won the Super Bowl, okay? But I don't really believe in that mode of winning. I mean, I think they got fortunate and got it done. Then they had a 1-year run. It wasn't sustainable. They had to crash out. Now they're back. I mean, it's I don't know. It's to me, if that's not the sustainable way to build, I think you got to build with foundation pieces in the draft, like the Niners of the 80s did with Lott and Rice and Joe, and and if you can supplement it with a trade here or there, and they've done more than that. They've supplemented it quite a bit, but they need to build in the draft. But I do like the idea. I mean, they're at a point now where it's time to make a list of your needs and start checking them off. And if once you fill all your needs, you'll be right there with Seattle. But you got to check off those needs. And a big time edge rusher who puts heat on Sam Darnold and Matthew Stafford is at or very much near the top of that list. And so if you want to start with Crosby and make a big play there, I'm fine with that.
All right. Speaking of rise of the 49ers, Kirk Cousins 8 hours ago chimed in on it. He tweeted, really enjoyed watching Rise of the 49ers on AMC, compelling storytelling of a head coach, owner, and players who shaped so much of what pro football has become. Hashtag Rise of the 49ers. Almost like Magic Johnson wrote it. Top tweet. So you're signing, top response. So you're signing with the 49ers is what I'm hearing after they trade Mac Jones. I think that's probably what went through everyone's mind. All of a sudden, he's sort of like sucking up to the 49ers or at least mentioning them. Do you think if the 49ers get the second round pick, which they expect to get for Mac Jones, and they trade him, that they would make an offer to Kirk Cousins and he would be interested in backing up Brock Purdy for a year or two?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, just think about it. Because you got to think these things through, how they logically and how they actually go down. Yeah, it's easy to go, hey, no, man, the Jets can pay more. Oh, hey, no, man, the Jets can make him their starter. Okay. But he's having a conversation with his wife and his kids, who he loves. And they're like, Kirk, we don't want you to play anymore, man. You're going to get killed. And he's like, no, I still want to play. I got that hunger to win the ring and this and that. What are your choices? I can be the starter with the Jets behind a bad line and get absolutely crushed on the worst turf in the league and probably wind up with some kind of long-range health issue. I've already made $335 million on the field and another 150 probably off the field. So I don't need any money. I'm going to go back up Brock Purdy, who's really cool, and work with Shanahan, who I really believe in. And guess what? Brock's hurt a lot, and I could wind up going there. I'll play a little bit. I could wind up with that ring if I'm going to get a ring, this is the best way for me to get that ring. At this point, I got all the money. I played for two reasons: the money and the ring. I got the money. I need the ring. So I'm going to join Shanahan and Purdy, and I don't want to say it out loud, but maybe hope that Brock gets hurt and then I'm standing in Super Bowl Sunday like Sam Darnold. I'm sure there's got to be a lot of quarterbacks around football that are sitting there going, I can win the Super Bowl. Sam Darnold just won it.
Right. I mean, I was thinking the same thing. All of a sudden, it seems like you don't need to have a Hall of Fame quarterback to win a Super Bowl. What you need to have is an all-time great defense. And to have that, maybe you shouldn't be spending a lot of money on your quarterback. Either you have one on a rookie deal or you have a guy who's affordable, a la Kirk Cousins. He's experienced. He's good. He played pretty well for the Falcons last year. He's been on some bad teams. I could see him wanting to play for the 49ers. I'm sure he wants to start. But what's nice about the 49ers opportunity is that Brock hasn't really proven that he can stay healthy. He misses games. And when the backup gets to play, Mac Jones did really well. I'm sure Kirk thinks he's better than Mac Jones. Kirk is like best. I'm not saying he's very good friends with Kyle Shanahan. From what I heard, from what I hear, they're still in contact regularly. So I kind of feel like they almost have a pact. And before we retire, let's do it one time. I think it's going to happen. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Kirk Cousins, and I think it would be good for Brock. The last 2 years, well, 3, Darnold and Mac have been good for him, but they've kind of been like learning from Brock. They've talked about it. I'm trying to get my career back on track. I just got to see what Brock does. Kirk Cousins is 38 years old. He's very confident in who he is. He may not think he's better than Brock, but he's not learning from Brock. He would push Brock, and I think maybe help Brock mature a little bit. We forget that Brock's still only 25 years old.
The central figure in the Niners story is Kyle Shanahan. And Kyle Shanahan knows. I mean, the way Kyle Shanahan coaches, he's measuring risk all the time. It's not like he just goes for it all the time. He's not the go for it all the time guy. And it's like if he gets to 3rd and long and he's backed up inside his 10, he halfback draw, and here comes Thomas Morstead. He knows how to manage a game, right? And he's going to manage his career the same way. He knows for a fact that if he didn't have Mac Jones this year, instead of going 12 wins season, they probably win 7 games or 8 games, and they're sub 500, and there is heat in his kitchen from Jed, from the fans, from everybody, us and everybody else. He knows that's the truth. So what does he want?
Yeah, if his backup was Brandon Allen last year, they could have went 0-8 without. Could have gone 0-8 without.
Exactly. So Shanahan learned a lot this year, and he learns these things. Everything's about experiencing it. So he learned that. So now it's like you got to have the really good backup. But then you got to move Mac Jones because your team is so far behind Seattle that you need the assets that a Mac Jones trade will bring. They'll be huge. They should be huge if you do it right, as far as how you're going to win next year. So you need to move Mac Jones for that reason. But you also got to have a quarterback that you can win with as your backup. So I don't think Rourke is it. I don't think Martinez is it. But I do think Cousins is it. And I think Falcons are going to cut him. And he's made $300 million, and I think he could start, but probably only for the Jets or Cardinals. And then that's the question. Would he prefer at this point to start for the Jets and Cardinals for a few more bucks, or is he about the ring? And I would guess, and I've interviewed him a couple times, he's got money. It's about relationships and rings at this point, and that's Shanahan. And I think Purdy, also Darnold probably has lit the fuse into a lot. I mean, look at Derek Carr's like, yeah, I want to get back in. There's all these guys who are looking at Darnold going, that guy's a donkey and he's got a ring. I can do that. And so I'm sure that's feeding the fires of a lot of mediocre NFL quarterbacks. But that aside, I like Kirk Cousins. I think it would be a great fit. And I think it makes sense. And now the question is, how greedy is he? It's like, Kirk, you've made $350 million. Why don't you come here for a really cheap Mac Jones $5 million kind of backup and let the Niners go add another offensive lineman or defensive lineman or corner or whatever with that money?
I mean, Sam Darnold was on his way out of the league. The Niners brought him on. 2 years later, Super Bowl champion. Mac Jones was on his way out of the league.
Yeah.
Niners brought him on. Now he's worth a second-round pick in a trade, something like that. Who knows what he has in store for his future. Future looks bright for Mac Jones. I could see a lot of people wanting to be the backup quarterback for Brock Purdy. I mean, it seems like a career springboard. You're probably going to get a chance to play. And even if you don't, in the case of Sam Darnold, people will want you because you all of a sudden know Kyle Shanahan's system. Although Kirk Cousins has known it for a while. I would imagine from his perspective, it would be nice to go back to Minnesota and take J.J. McCarthy's job. I mean, that's a pretty good team, pretty good wide receivers. But if that's not available and he isn't he has to choose between the Cardinals and the Jets, then yeah, go to the Niners for a year. And in a year, I bet a lot of teams will want you.
Yeah. And by the way, to tie this all together to what we started off with, how about a Mac Jones to the Raiders kind of a trade that's then, because to me, the Niners' best chance of making a trade that's both palatable to the Raiders and palatable to the Niners is if Mac Jones is involved. Because without Mac Jones, I don't think it works. Because with Mac Jones, then you can just say, here's Mac Jones and a pick. But without Mac Jones, then it's like we want 2 1s and a player and what play. You said it. They want the Parsons deal. Parsons deal was 2 1s and Kenny Clark. The Niners don't want to trade 2 1s, and they don't have a Kenny Clark. So, you know what I mean? It's like there's no deal there. But I do think there's a deal if somehow the Raiders get cold feet about Mendoza for whatever reason and just say, hey, you know what? We'll replace Max with Arvell Reese, and he'll be the edge, beast that we have, and we'll start with Mac Jones. It'll be less risk anyway, and we don't want to stomach a long-term rebuild. And Mendoza, because Mendoza's personality he's a good guy, but he's a little different, and some people may have questions, and I bet you the Raiders, who are known to be a franchise, Grant, that has no conviction at all personnel-wise. I bet you anything that they're going to get nervous about Mendoza and opt for the safer Ohio State defensive player.
To me, the fact that they hired Clint Kubiak indicates that they're going to take Mendoza, for better or worse. I think that they're thinking if
Darnold
Clint
could be.
Kubiak,
I mean, he
you
just
know what
had
I
a
mean?
Darnold reclamation project. Personally, I think Mac Jones is a better reclamation project candidate than Darnold. I think he processes better. I think he's more accurate.
I agree with you on that. I would just imagine that I think the Raiders want Mendoza. And when they were interviewing coaches, they kind of wanted coaches to say that they like Mendoza and that what they could do with Mendoza. And I think probably part of how Clint Kubiak sold himself to the Raiders was all the things he said he can do with Mendoza. I could be wrong. Maybe he went into the Raiders was like, Mendoza sucks. If you hire me, we're trading for Mac Jones. And they loved that idea. I don't know. That would be a cool idea if I heard it, but I would imagine they're going to go with Mendoza.
I know, let's just say this,
it's going to be the right move.
Let's just say this about this. I know it appears that going with Mendoza would be the safe play, but in reality, going with the awesome premier defender like a Will Anderson, and that's what I see in Arvell Reese, probably is the safer play because Mac Jones can be at least a this, where Mendoza may be that, but Mendoza may be this. So I don't know. I think the safer play is to go with Mac Jones in the big time defensive player, but I think you're right. I think they're probably going to go Mendoza.
All right. Switch gears. Will the 49ers trade for A.J. Brown? I ask this because there's a lot of speculation that they want Justin Jefferson. I imagine every team wants Justin Jefferson. There hasn't been anything saying that Justin Jefferson's available or that he's requested a trade. A.J. Brown is available. He wants out, and I think the Eagles are ready to move on. He's very expensive, and they have Devontae Smith as well. Do you think the 49ers will trade for A.J. Brown given their enormous need for a wide receiver? And really not just that, like a go-to guy in the offense considering Kittle, I don't know when he's coming back, and McCaffrey's going to be 30 this year.
Yeah, I mean, A.J. Brown, is just incredible compared to what the Niners have right now. Yes, I would absolutely be interested in an A.J. Brown trade. The other wrinkle here is how exactly are the Niners going to part ways with Aiyuk? Because there are teams, from what I've heard, that may like to have Aiyuk. So is Aiyuk now going to be a trade target? And could you fold Aiyuk into some kind of a trade that nets you, A.J. Brown or another receiver? Is there somebody out there? We know the Commanders we know Daniels wants Aiyuk in Washington. He said that this week in a podcast. He made reference to it. So he badly wants that to happen. I would guess he's going to Washington, but there may be some value in Aiyuk on the trade front. And I would love to see a deal involving Aiyuk and A.J. Brown. I mean, it would add so much juice to the rivalry. If the Eagles had Aiyuk and A.J. Brown was here, as much as A.J. Brown didn't like Sirianni and Aiyuk seems to not like Shanahan, doesn't it seem like that would be an awesome thing to be able to talk about is, the resurgence of Aiyuk with Sirianni against A.J. Brown and Shanahan? I think it would be a great story. I would love to see that, but I do think it's going to be tied to Aiyuk.
I would love Aiyuk to have a bounce back in his career. I mean, I don't think anyone's rooting against, well, maybe Niner fans are rooting against him since he quit. But the way I get I don't get the sense that he and his agent are quietly plotting their future together. Like, hey, man, just be quiet. Don't say anything. Don't post anything. We're going to get you to Washington together. I kind of get the feeling that Aiyuk went MIA on everyone, including his agent, and that this is him sort of going rogue, and that the agent doesn't really understand what's going on. No one understands what's going on. Remember, the agent's like best friends with John Lynch. So hey, maybe Brandon Aiyuk plays football again, but I'm not so sure about that.
I'm not so sure about it either, but not from I think there's a chance that he can't play football again because that injury was a devastating injury. And I don't think people really saw it as such because the angle that we saw it at, it didn't look as devastating. But if you slow that thing down and really look at close, he destroyed his knee, destroyed it. And I to me, it's like, I was like, oh, because I knew that not only was he out for the year, but that was like, probably he'll never be the same. And I don't know if I don't want to put the hex on him. I hope he's the same, but it's the kind of injury that's in that. It went from really serious to like that devastating injury. And it's kind of a devastating injury.
Yeah, I mean, his whole game was built on. I mean, he wasn't a burner. He ran about 4.5, but his game was built on like being able to stop on a dime and cut on a dime and run the full route tree and shake people. Like, you really can he do that anymore? Will he be a 4.6 guy who has okay route running? I don't even know what to expect.
Yeah. It's kind of sad too, because it's like these guys are stars. They're big parts of your offense, but then when they break, it's like there's a whole crop. And Dane Brugler had 17 wide receivers in his top 100. I mean, there's a lot of wide receivers every year because the college game's about the passing and the spread, and every team's got 3 and 4 wides, and there's just tons of prospects everywhere you look. So why do you need? It's like, I'll say this: the wide receiver in the NFL in 2026 is like it's like the status of your printer. It's like if your printer breaks, do you sit there and hire somebody to fix it? No, you throw it in the garbage and you go buy a new printer. And that's how wide receivers are in the NFL right now.
Yeah. And I think it's such an overpaid position, and the Niners really got burned with Aiyuk and Debo. I think there's some lessons to be learned. If you're going to spend a lot of money on a wide receiver, it's okay, but he's got to be like legitimately top 5 in the league, in my opinion. And you got to be committed to giving him the ball a boatload of times. Like, the Seahawks should extend Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's a great player, and they gave him 163 targets. Sure, you'll get your money's worth, but Aiyuk was fringe top 10, and the Niners were like barely finding ways to get him 100 targets a season. It never made sense. The Niners aren't that kind of team that, unless they decide, hey, we can give the ball to A.J. Brown 160 times next year, then sure. Otherwise, just draft a wide receiver and spend the money elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I mean, there's a bunch of wide receivers in this draft that are really exciting, and also it's like a diva position where there's guys who, Brian Thomas Jr. may get traded. Addison's going to get traded. I mean, how about instead of taking a risk on
Brian Thomas Jr.? Yeah, he was good with Mac Jones.
Oh yeah, he was good with Mac Jones, and maybe Mac Jones could recruit him. I mean, I really like Brian. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is the type of receiver the Niners need, and Addison too. And I wouldn't mess around too much in the draft because guess what? You should, unless you've dogged the last couple of drafts, and I'll just take John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, and I'll assume that they haven't dogged it. They've actually are trying in these drafts. You're not picking wide receivers worth a damn. So you better go get a little bit more of a sure thing. Addison can play. Brian Thomas Jr. can play. Justin Jefferson and A.J. Brown can play. It's clear you don't know of the college receivers which guys can potentially play because you've drafted a bunch of guys that can't play. So I would start getting a little more, a little safer. It's like you see a kid shooting threes and they're going for air balls. Hey, move in a little bit, Johnny. Take an easier shot. And I would tell the Niners, move in a little bit, take an easier shot, go for a more established receiver because you're not handicapping receivers well.
I love the idea of Brian Thomas Jr. He's young. He's 23. He just turned 23 in October. He's coming off a down year, but as a rookie, 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns this past year, 700 yards and 2 touchdowns. I like Brian Thomas Jr. He could play X. He could play next to Ricky Pearsall. That would be a pretty explosive young wide receiver tandem with potential. That's an interesting name there. What do you think it would take to get? I don't even think they want Brian Thomas Jr.
I mean, I'd offer Ricky Pearsall. I mean, he just was good at Florida, and he's been hurt.
First round pick for first round pick. Change of scenery for change of scenery.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's fair. I mean, if you're going to make a trade, you're supposed to. There's going to be some risk. There's going to be some risk, and it's like if you trade Ricky, there's some risk. There's some risk that he becomes Cooper Kupp in Jacksonville for Trevor Lawrence. Okay, I'll take that risk. Or with Brian Thomas, there's some risk that he's going to find himself. He's an LSU receiver with awesome ball skills, great size, long arms. I mean, Brian Thomas could wind up being the best receiver in football, in my opinion, with the right quarterback and the right offense. I mean, I would absolutely make that trade in a heartbeat.
I would too. That's an interesting one. All right. Jauan Jennings is set to be a free agent, and the Niners haven't extended him yet. They could extend him today. He's been asking for an extension for a year, hasn't gotten it. Doesn't seem like the Niners are eager to give him a 3-year, $60 million contract, which might be what he could command on the open market. So the question is, should they or will they franchise tag him? What do you think? It's not cheap.
No, they won't do that. It's what is it? Isn't it like, what is it? 28 million? What is the
Something like
franchise
that.
tag?
Something
I just
like
saw
that.
it today. I was looking at it earlier. The franchise tags are out today.
28.8. Yeah, 28.8.
28. No. Twice on Sunday, no.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about JJ. Nobody respects him more than us. We watched it, right?
Yeah.
We all watched it. We all know that he's better than his stats. He's a tough guy, and he's a really good receiver, really dependable. But you can't pay him that kind of money. Here's the weird thing. Shanahan says there is no player that he's ever been around that he respects more, and I believe him. Lynch says that JJ's his favorite player, and I believe him. But Jed and Parag and there's other people. They don't just John and Kyle can't just operate independently, and there's no way the bean counters in that building are going to let those guys pay this guy what he's worth, which is why when we saw him last, a guy who's tough as heck was literally weepy in the middle of the room because he loves it here. Yeah. This is all he's ever known. He would love to stay here, but he knows they've exchanged offers. He knows his market's going to here and their bid's going to stay, so he's gone and he knows it. And I'm sure he's upset about it, but that's it. That's the way it's going down.
Here's what I want to say to Jauan Jennings. Jauan, God love you. You were a terrific 49er. And you were, very important to some very good teams. And I hope you get a big contract on the free agent market because you didn't make that much money on the 49ers. Former 7th-round pick. They always sort of paid you as little as they needed to, and you fought for as much as you could get, and I respect that. So I hope you get paid. I just don't expect that your best years will be in the future on another team. I wouldn't want to sign Jauan Jennings. I think the Niners would be smart to let him leave. It's the Bill Walsh, George Seifert, Eddie DeBartolo move. They got the absolute best out of Jauan Jennings. Let him get paid somewhere else. Let him disappoint someone else because what are you really expecting to get from Jauan Jennings at 30, 31, 32?
He's one of the most interesting free agents of this entire cycle. Why? Because we all know that this is the big money guy. You put money on the table and this guy shows up. So here's my question. Is there going to be some super shrewd personnel guy of a great team like Seattle or the Rams that's going to realize this guy's potential and just say, you know what? We're going to pay him or going to be able to convince him that because I think JJ plays for the ring. I don't think he plays for the glory or the money. I think he plays for the ring. And I think somebody great in this league, maybe the Rams, maybe the Seahawks, maybe the Chiefs, maybe, I don't know what team, maybe the Eagles. There's going to be some big time team with a smart GM that's going to be like, come here and you'll be the final piece and let's win the Super Bowl. And if it'll be interesting to see, will he go for that and leave the Niners looking for the ring, which would be really insulting to the Niners, take less money to go play somewhere for a ring as opposed to, we all think he's leaving for the big payday. But what if he goes somewhere else to play for the ring on a better team? That's the insult. Does he do that because that's what he's about? Or does he do what I think he should do? Like if I was talking to him, I'd be like, JJ, nothing but respect. But you play this game to take care of your family. You got a city in Nashville that loves you. Nobody's got more cap room than the Titans. Go play for Saleh, get the bag, take care of your family, and then do your best to win a ring in that structure. And if you win one, I know you're probably not going to win one, but at least you got the bag and took care of your family. That's what I would advise him to do if he was like my good friend. I don't know what he's going to do, though. I think he may spurn the Niners, spurn the bag, and go somewhere for a year to win a Super Bowl. And that's what really scares me, winding up next to JSN on the Seahawks. That's what I don't want to see.
I don't think the Seahawks will sign Jauan Jennings because they're already paying Cooper Kupp and they're about to extend Jackson Smith and
He could
Jigba.
retire, though.
I agree with you. I think Tennessee is where Jauan Jennings will end up.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to take the money and they're going to, maybe I'm wrong, and they're going to frame
He should
it
take the
as,
money.
I'd take the money. It's not like he hasn't made that much. I would take the money. And Tennessee could work out if you like Cam Ward. Cam Ward's pretty good, but they'll be like, we want Jauan to set the culture here. We want him to show the people how it's done. Which great, fine, yeah, could work.
I bet you
you're gonna need a lot more than Jauan Jennings.
I mean, you could ask your dad this. I'd love to. I wish Lowell was here right now. Who on the current Niners is the most like Ronnie? Because Ronnie was the Niners, leader, conscience, badass, whatever you want to say. Ronnie was it. So
probably
who
Fred
in the
Warner.
Niners is Fred Warner?
I would think so.
I thought maybe he'd say Jennings, because Jennings is in some ways Ronnie was a warrior, and Jennings is a warrior.
Okay, that's a good call. I wasn't thinking offense. How about this? Will the Niners franchise tag Eddie Pinheiro? They cannot let him leave. It seems like it's easy to replace kickers until you end up with Jake Moody. So they could give him a multi-year extension, or they could just give him the franchise tag. What do you think?
I mean, I'm not sure exactly the machinations of how this works. Can they wait till he gets offered something and then? I mean, the going rate and what he wants is probably around $5 million. The franchise tag 6-7. Just give him the for 6-7 and get down the road. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's $1.7 million. I mean, are you going to spend a bunch of time worrying about this, or are you just going to? I mean, you could get him to sign for $5 million probably. But if you tag him, he can't go anywhere. You can get it done at 6.7. I don't know. It seems like it's like if you lose your kicker over $1.7 million, because they're probably willing to. They paid him like 1.6 this year. So they got a great screaming deal. I'm sure they understand they're going to have to pay him a couple $1 million more, but I'm sure they want to pay him 3.5 or 4.5 and not 7 or 6.7. So they'll cut a deal. They'll work it out. But I think they better franchise tag him instead of lose him. If you let him walk, you're a damn fool, because look how hard it was to find a kicker.
I'm surprised that the Niners haven't extended Eddie Pinheiro already. To me, this should be their number one priority. It should be the first person they sign this offseason, Eddie Pinheiro. It should be easy. It should be done right now. I mean, you could argue that Jake Moody was one of the biggest reasons they missed the playoffs in 2024. They had a lot of problems in 2024, but they had a lot of problems in 2025. They were more injured in 2025.
Can we go back and review this for a second? Jake Moody's miss of the PAT is the reason they lost the fucking Super Bowl. They would have been up 4. Instead, they were up 3. Butker kicked a field goal. It went overtime. They would have won. Or they would have, they wouldn't have lost on the field. Their chances
of winning would have been so much higher. No question about it.
I mean, that was a huge.
They win that Super Bowl if Robbie Gould was their kicker. They win that Super Bowl if Eddie Pinheiro is their kicker. You can't mess around. If somehow Eddie Pinheiro is not the kicker of this team next season, someone's got to get fired. I mean, if he's not the kicker and they miss the playoffs, you could point it back directly to that. So I don't know what they're waiting for. This should be so easy. They should give him a freaking lifetime contract. They should be thanking God that he delivered him like manna from the heavens. Eddie Pinheiro.
I mean, seriously, it's like
Tyler's jersey.
The Mount Rushmore of the Lynch Shanahan regime should have Brock Purdy, Mac Jones, Eddie Pinheiro. And who else?
Guys who saved their asses.
The bacon savers.
Jeez.
I mean,
and then
Mac Jones.
The other Mount Rushmore with guys like Jake Moody. Some of the worst. Trey Lance. Cam Latu. Good times.
Drake Jackson.
All right. Let me ask you this.
I love great Drake. Drake, if you're out, I'm sorry.
If the Niners stay relatively healthy next season, which they haven't been able to do in a while, will they win the Super Bowl? They beat the Seahawks week 1. They have a really good quarterback who's still young, got a hell of a coach. What do you think? Is health?
No, I mean, it's not. I mean, maybe you got to. That's the question. I can't say that. I'm not that level of a homer. I mean, I'm optimistic about the Niners,
Okay.
even though they've had some bad drafts. I'm optimistic they can have that bonanza that they need,
Yeah.
and I'm optimistic they'll spend a few more dollars in free agency, and I'm optimistic that they'll address their needs, and I feel good about their chances if they fill their needs. But there's a lot of needs, and there's a lot of filling that needs to be done, and there's no way I could speak right now about any kind of championship until we get at least 10 of those 12 needs met. I mean, they have a lot of needs. They got a lot of needs, and they got a lot of question marks, and they're not one of the top teams. I was looking at the odds from FanDuel, Grant, for the odds on the upcoming Super Bowl 61. The Niners are not in the top 10. That should speak to them loudly and clearly. That's where you reside currently among the NFL hierarchy. You're a good quarterback and a good head coach and a good organization. They've done a lot of winning, some great players there. You're not a top 10 team. Not today.
You don't have a great defense. You don't have a great defensive coordinator. Maybe if they trade for Maxx Crosby, they can make themselves into a great defensive team, but I don't see that right now. They're trying to be a great offensive team. They don't have a left guard. Their offensive line is mediocre at best. Their tight end. What are you really expecting from George Kittle this year?
Nothing. I mean, he tore his Achilles in the playoffs. He shouldn't be back until the playoffs. It's a 1-year rehab. I don't expect anything from George Kittle. I expect George Kittle to, hold court in the media. His interview to reception ratio was going to suck. He's going to have lots of interviews. And
so let's keep going through it. What do you expect from Christian McCaffrey in 2026?
I expect Christian McCaffrey to either get hurt and miss a lot of games, maybe half the year, or I expect the 49ers to adjust and start utilizing him as a slot receiver. Like, my plan to rebuild the Niners would include drafting a couple of running backs and using Christian as the way that the Lions use Jahmyr Gibbs, or maybe even a little bit more as a receiver, maybe a little bit more like a cross version of Debo, where it's like you start using him more as a receiver and less as a runner.
Agree. Okay, so we expect Jennings to be gone. What do you expect from Ricky Pearsall in year 3?
I expect him to be a Jacksonville Jaguar, or I think somebody with the Niners told me that Renardo Green and Ricky Pearsall are likely to be traded, and so I'm going with that. I told you that a week after that was told to me, and that's what I expect.
Okay. Hey, maybe the Niners go out and get Brian Thomas Jr. That'd be interesting, but we don't know who their wide receivers are going to be. We don't know when George Kittle's coming back. We don't know what to expect from Christian McCaffrey or how they're going to use him, although maybe we do know what to expect. And then Trent Williams, what do you expect from him in 2026?
I mean, he seems like he's pretty rock solid. I expect Trent Williams. I don't expect him to be better, but I expect Trent to kind of be what Trent is. I think Trent's going to keep going.
The problem with Trent is that he's usually injured by the time the season is ramping up, like playing through something when it's January. At least
I'd like to have Trent's replacement there, so you get a year of showing this replacement. Show them the ropes. I mean, this is a position I wouldn't mind if they had a guy. I mean, I like the Notre Dame kid Emil Wagner, but they got to find a day 3 tackle because they can't invest a high pick in one right now because they have other needs that are today needs. It's more of a tomorrow need. But on day 3, man, you got to find a tackle that you really like and let them learn from your main Hall of Fame guy for a year. I think that would be a huge opportunity wasted if they don't do that.
Yeah, I think the Niners are in a very weird spot. You think of them, their Super Bowl window should be open. They have their quarterback. They have a great backup quarterback. They have their coach. I mean, what are we waiting for? But they haven't drafted well enough. And it seems like, even if they do stay healthy, they're a couple of drafts away, a couple of good drafts away from being what the Seahawks are.
Yeah, unless they have, it depends. Are they going to participate in the free agent market this year? They really didn't last year. There's 2 or 3 guys in the free agent market you could add. But yeah, I agree with you. They're going to need new weaponry. They're going to need a couple new backs. They're going to need a new tight end, at least another tight end. They need at least 2 receivers, probably more like 3. And they need at least 2 offensive linemen. They need an interior guy and they need a future tackle. They may
Doesn't
need
that sound
2
like you just
interior
described
guys.
2 off seasons though? How do you
Well,
get
I'm just
all of that
saying,
in one off season and get it right?
yeah. Oh, I know. I mean, you're going to have to. Well, the thing is, you're going to have 20 new players. You're going to
Mhm.
have to. I think you've got 8 picks or something like that. You're going to have to turn your 8 picks into 12 picks. You have to move back a little bit, and then now you've signed 5 or 6 free agents. I mean, especially on the offensive side. I mean, like Kyle Pitts, I would definitely go after Kyle Pitts. I mean, we'll see if he's franchise tagged. He's a guy that I think could be franchise tagged. If he's not, man, that would be a guy that I would absolutely spend some money on. I'd rather go spend the money on Kyle Pitts, who is a tight end, and so he's might be cheaper than Jauan Jennings. So
I feel like that's an interesting trend that the Rams kind of pointed out. Like, not only are tight ends, effective, but they're cheaper. So all of a sudden, they had 3 on the field at one time. None of them are making a lot of money. I wonder how many teams are going to look at that and see, why are we spending $35 million a year for this wide receiver who's not winning us games? Why don't we just invest in the tight end market?
Right. And a team like the Rams, they've got the quarterback with the arm that can create the separation. They're not even worried about these guys separating. They just want guys with good ball skills. So they've got a bunch there. And then the Niners ought to shop in that aisle this year. Tommy Tremble, Cole Kmet. I mean, there's going to be a Jonnu Smith. There's going to be about 10 different tight ends. Njoku. I saw the list. Hawkinson. There's going to be a bunch of guys who are lopped off in the next couple of weeks as teams get compliant with the salary cap. You're going to see a bunch of tight ends. I think the tight end market's going to double or triple in size. You're going to see a bunch of good tight end options. And if I'm the Niners, I'm definitely shopping at that aisle because Purdy loves throwing it to the tight end. I'll give you one tight end I think they're going to sign. I bet you they sign Charlie Kohler, who he was Brock Purdy's tight end at Iowa State. They had a great relationship there. He's had a really bust out year this year with the Ravens. Ravens have a ton of free agents. They're not cap compliant. I could easily see Charlie Kohler being here.
It seems to me that you can never go wrong signing players at positions that are like undervalued. Tight end, you're not going to break the bank. Safety, you're not going to spend that much. You can get an all-pro safety for $15 million a year. You can get a good one for $10 million a year as opposed to freaking wide receiver where you're spending 20 plus just for a complimentary guy.
Oh, 28 is the franchise tag.
Yuck.
Wide receivers. Just wave goodbye. Just draft receivers and get ready to go find somebody else. Always look for somebody else.
If the Niners can drastically improve in the trenches this offseason, that would go a long way. They did great improving their run defense. They got some good run defenders, but they need a pass rusher. However, I don't think it's Bryce Huff. I think they need someone better than Bryce Huff complementing Nick Bosa, and they need a left guard. We talked about this last year. They got super cute with that Ben Barch stuff, and they lucked out with Spencer Burford being able to play that position. They should not re-sign Spencer Burford. He's probably going to get $15 million a year like Jalen Moore did. They need it can't be Ben Barch. They need a good left guard if they want to run the ball against the Seahawks.
Jesse always gives me crap because I keep suggesting Nick Allegretti, but I do like Allegretti. Now, yes, he's a friend of mine. He's been on the show, but the Niners did look at him when he signed with the Commanders. He told me the 49ers kicked tires on him and he talked to Lynch. He's got Super Bowl experience. He can play center. He can play guard. He's a veteran. He knows how to play. He's tough. He's got a wrestling background. He's versatile. He's probably pretty cheap. Everybody's saying go get Linderbaum. Okay, but he's going to cost you like 5 times what you're normally paying for Brendel right now. So, I mean, it's like, is he 5 times better than Brendel? Well, probably not. So then you got to justify paying him that. I don't know if I would pay Linderbaum, but I know what people are saying. You got to get better inside because they virtually have quit on even trying to run the ball at Seattle. And, Seattle's got a good defense, but guess what? They got a really great defense if they know that you can't run inside and that you're not going to try to run inside. And so they can just basically out sprint you to the sideline and, shut you down like they did in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, the best way really to attack Seattle is between the tackles, right? Because one of those guys is two gapping. They don't have an 8th guy in the box. They should be a little light between the tackles. They have the two outside linebackers setting edges. but they used to be able to run between the tackles.
Rams did it. Corum went for 6 yards a carry. Rams ran for 5 yards a carry. Niners could not run the ball at all in the last two matchups. They only scored 8.7 points per game in the three matchups against Seattle. It's time to change things up offensively.
What's great about adding extra tight ends to the formation, especially against the Seahawks, is that every time you add an extra tight end, you add an extra gap. So if you add 2 tight ends, that's 2 extra gaps. And so what are the Seahawks going to do? Are they going to bring the safety down? Or are they going to add? If not, they'll have multiple defensive tackles playing 2 gaps. And now you got a lot of space to run the ball between the tackles. The Rams figured that out. The Niners absolutely need to figure that out. But again, Linderbaum, he'd be great. He's the number 1 center on the market. They don't necessarily need a starting center. They definitely need a starting left guard, and a good one. And it'd be nice if 38-year-old Trent Williams wasn't their best offensive lineman. At a certain point, that's a lot to ask for him. He could be the second best offensive lineman. You need to make a serious investment in this guard position. Like when the Bears signed Tooney last year, that was smart.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like the Niners need a couple things, but just generally, they need a lot more speed on defense. Too slow on defense, and on offense, they need more. They need better runners, more explosive, dynamic weapons that can operate in space. They got no yards after the catch. The 49ers, I mean, think about it. If I told you just on the surface, I'm not going to tell you about what the Niners season was like at all, but I'm just going to tell you that they have Brock Purdy as their quarterback, and they were like last in the league in yards after catch. That's not good. So you're asking a guy who doesn't have the big arm but processes really well and can get it out of his hands from any angle quickly, but he doesn't have hardly any yards after the catch, and he has got Christian McCaffrey on his team. It's like, that tells you right there, go get some better weapons. Surround this, build a fortress around your quarterback so he has time to throw. Get some more dynamic weapons. Say goodbye to your slow weapons. Every guy that played receiver for them, Bourne wants to come back. No. JJ wants to come back, take his card key. All these guys move on, find better speed. They're too slow.
I got a guy for you, a name. He's real fast, super fast, gives you yak. Just got released. He's a little older, about 31. Tyreek Hill.
See, once again, I mean, last time I saw this guy, his leg was bending in a direction that is not supposed to bend. And,
That's true.
These guys it just doesn't, it's like I have great respect for the guys who play this game because of the violence that they go through. But then I am also smart enough to know that once they endure that violence, it's over, man. I mean, for every Bryant Young who put a steel rod in his leg and played 9 more years, there's Willis McGahee who never looked the same again, or Marcus Lattimore who never looked the same again. So when you see catastrophic injuries, I'm not offering I don't want to offer guaranteed dollars of any real size to anybody who's had catastrophic injuries. I know that sounds terrible, but that's just the way I think.
It's kind of like the Brandon Aiyuk situation. All right, let's quickly do some prize picks, and then we'll do our super chats. These are MLB futures prize picks. So for the whole upcoming season, Shohei Ohtani, 48.5 home runs, more or fewer for Shohei? 48.
That is such a fat number, but I'm going to go over.
Yeah, more.
Go over, man. More. Yeah.
How about Aaron Judge, 49.5?
Gosh. I guess I would go probably over. Probably more.
Okay. I'm trying to see if I can find a giant in here. How about Nick Kurtz, 36.5 home runs?
Ooh, I love Nick Kurtz. That's the A's first baseman. He plays in total bandbox. Let's say more.
Okay. Looking for a giant. I saw Butcher Boy Joe. I heard Butcher Boy Joe Shasky on the radio today, this week, say Devers is going for 40, and my jaw dropped. Is he going for 40? Where is Devers?
No, he's
Devers.
not going for 40. He's not going for 40 because
30.5 home runs. What do you think?
I was going to say 40. Yeah, no. I was going to say the over-under is nowhere near 40.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I would say 30 is pretty good, but it's this is only Barry Bonds has ever real. Now this guy's a switch, right? But I mean,
Yeah.
not only Barry Bonds, for the most part, pumps out home runs as a left-handed hitter. So I think Devers gonna have a lot of extra base hits, but I like less.
Less. Okay.
Less, yeah. I think he's a 25 to 28 home run guy.
All right. How about Adamas? No, you know who's okay. I want to do Adamas, but then I want to do Chapman because I feel like he's the most predictable player of all time. Willie Adamas, 27 and a half home runs.
This guy swings for the fences.
He does.
I would say less.
Oh, okay. Okay. And then let's get Chapman. Chapman and his, I bet it's 24 and a half.
18. What is it?
23 and a half. I feel like he's good for 25 home runs a year.
Man, it's a big ballpark. And then the division's got Dodger Stadium, which is also a big ballpark, and then Petco, which is also a big ballpark, and it's just a lot of games in big ballparks. Let's go with more on Chapman. I think Chapman might get into a hot streak.
Okay, these are Larry's baseball prize picks. Check them out. We're gonna flex it just in case. $20 down. Submitting it. Download prize picks. Use promo code COHN, COHN. Play $5, get $50 instantly in lineups when you use promo code COHN. Stuart Damon says you and your father's take on the rise of the 49ers, your father and Ira's critique of those teams helped push them to greatness. Oh, appreciate it. I like that show. It would have been cool if they had Holmgren in it, Seifert in it, but they had a lot.
There was no mention of Seifert. Seifert's didn't even exist.
Yeah. Alfredo Rojas says Mike Evans.
Yeah. Is Mike Evans definitely leaving Tampa?
I don't know.
I would say
that's a guy who would not stay healthy on the 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big receiver for sure, but I would say no. They need more dynamic weapons. Brendan Thompson, go check him out from Mississippi State. Okay. He's going to run a crazy 40. He's a ridiculous runner. That's a receiver I kind of like.
All right. TVY T143 says, did Kay Adams steal the Super Bowl booth spotlight? No. Boxing Fan Times 4 says, what about Mac plus pick 58 to Miami for pick 43, 50, 75, and 87?
Somebody's getting in the simulator.
Steve Lewis says,
I like volume of picks. I like getting multiple picks, but that's two players for 3 players, and you're trading a quarterback. You probably could do better than that.
It's over my head. Steve Lewis says, should the NFL players just retire at 30? It's too old. I mean,
many of them do. I mean, I would say look it up. I bet you most guys who walk away from the game are probably 30.
Patrick Willis walked away at 30. Joseph Ernberg, is a new member. Thank you. Logan Gutierrez says, whose injury is worse, Kittle or Tyreek?
Oh my God. I think it's definitely
Tyreek.
Kittle, here's the thing about the Achilles that's kind of interesting. Some of the people around the Warriors told me that when Klay Thompson tore his Achilles, that there's a new procedure with Achilles where they literally lock the Achilles. Like you cannot have a second Achilles blow. It's like once they literally lock it together so that there's no way you could ever blow your Achilles again. So I think the surgical procedures on the Achilles have gotten to a point where you don't see guys with 2 and 3 Achilles like you do with ACLs or other injuries. It's a one-time deal, and then they kind of fix it permanently.
All day, every day, Kim says, why are some of our Niner fans still talking about what SF would have done in the Super Bowl? It's over. We had a chance with the best roster multiple times. Well, because the Seahawks just won, and it's tough. Niner fans have had bragging rights over the Seahawks since Kyle Shanahan's gotten here, and now that's gone.
I mean, I'm not done talking about Harbaugh's gagging of the Harbaugh Bowl.
Yeah, that was bad. Justin S. 6444 says, if 2 firsts and Jones gets it done for Crosby, do it in a heartbeat. They can't pick in the first round anyways. Bosa, Michael, West, Collins, Crosby is elite.
That I don't think I would pay 2 firsts, but if you said this year's first, Mac Jones, and next year's second, I think I would do it.
I would do it all day, every day. Kim says Brock and his money will also be Kyle's downfall. Could be. Niner fan says Should the Niners make a move for Tyler Linderbaum or Elijah Vera Tucker? Elijah Vera Tucker didn't play at all last year, did he?
Yeah,
I don't think he played last year.
Elijah Vera Tucker has been hugely disappointing.
He's been injured all the time.
A really good player. The question is, do you want to get back to where Kyle started with Weston Richburg and Alex Mack, where you're paying big money for your center? Now, if you do, then Linderbaum's probably your guy. I will say this: if you just decided this year that you're going all Iowa on the front line and signed Linderbaum and then drafted some of these other guys, Bo Stevens, Jennings Dunker, that might not be a bad way to go either. Because that might be exactly what this offensive line needs. It's just a big injection of really good offensive linemen from Iowa.
It couldn't go wrong. Chuppy Wowie says F Lombardi, go Krug and Cohn. Hey, I didn't say it. It was not. It was that guy said it.
Wasn't us.
Wasn't us. All right, Larry. Thank you for coming on. As you all, you did a great job, and this was a great time.
Thank you to everybody.
Thanks everyone for watching. I'll be back tomorrow. Peace.